Not want to mess with that man.
Shh, he's listening.
He's listening.
He's listening. Stop it. You're only going to get us in trouble. He's always listening. All right. Let's see if that worked. It did. All right, we're good. Let's record this for posterity. And it says we're live. And all right, welcome to Masterclass Thursday. Masterclass Thursday. We have a small but feisty group here tonight, Andy.
I like it.
Andy Westley is the Master of Whisky for the Foley family, correct?
Sam? Yes.
Yep. And he is here tonight to go through one of my favorite distilleries. It's actually one of my favorite areas because I never get to it enough. In Campbeltown is Glen Scotia.
Yeah.
So without further ado, tell us about Glen Scotia.
Let's do it. And let's first of all talk a little bit about Campbeltown. First of all, how many of you have ever been to Campbeltown? One of the most remote places in the world. And part of the reason why I always have people ask about if they've been there or not is because at any point during the evening, I might be making some of this stuff up. And I actually find that everybody has a better time if nobody knows what's real and what's made up. So Campbeltown is a little tiny town at the bottom of a little tiny peninsula in southwestern Scotland, the Kintyre Peninsula in southwestern Scotland. And for those of you who have been there, you know that there's basically three ways to get to Campbeltown. It's about a 3-hour drive from Glasgow because you have to go up and around a big body of water. Yep.
There's no straight roads in Scotland first.
You can take a ferry across that body of water, unless, of course, you did like my wife and I did, and you get all the way to the ferry and realize the ferry's closed, and then you have to drive like an hour and a half in a different direction. Or you can take a 12-seater propeller plane, which is maybe the way that some of you got there. You know how when you get on a plane, there's somebody who like tells you put your seatbelt on and the exits are over here and everything else. The person who did that speech, after they did that speech, sat down next to the pilot and flew the plane. So it's a very, very remote place. And in the late 1800s, Campbelltown was literally sort of the mecca of whiskey production in Scotland.
Right.
At one point there were 26 distilleries in Campbelltown. In the late 1890s, by 1934, when Ricklochan closed, there were 2 left: Glen Scotia and Springbank. And it was that way until the early 1960s, when the Scotch Whisky Association, who's the group that decides who gets regional designations and things like that, was actually thinking about taking away Campbelltown's regional designation because there were only 2 distilleries. They're like, why do we need a separate region if there's only 2 distilleries? And at the time,
it doesn't cost you nothing more, sir.
Yeah, you know, I mean, but they were very, very interested in keeping the regional designation and keeping the identity of this very, very special place and these very, very special whiskeys. So Hedley Wright, the owner of Springbank at the time, opened up a distillery that was one of those that had closed right across the parking lot from Springbank.
Yep.
They made whiskey there for 3 months out of the year. The distillery is called Glengyle. The whiskeys are called Kilkerran. And so now there are 3 distilleries in Campbelltown, and then there are 3 more in production. Witchburn started making a little bit of liquid. Dalriada is being built, and Machrianish, the guys who do Isle of Rassy distillery, have a property on in Campbelltown where they're going to do a distillery there as well, but it hasn't been built. So right now there are 3 in production, and based on all of the Scotch whiskey rules, et cetera, it'll be several years before we'll see any whiskey from any of the others.
Okay, that'll be interesting. That's interesting, though. I mean, it's just like, it's just so funny because it's so arbitrary. It's like, now there's 3. Are we okay now? Yeah. Okay. You may now have his designation. There's 3.
Right. Well, and the reason that happened was because the Lowlands had 3.
Right.
And so it was sort of like,
take one away.
You can't take away our designation if we have the same amount of
one of those.
else.
But he has 3.
Yeah, you have 3, so you need to have 3 as well. Yes. And if you've read Dave Broom's most recent book, there's a lot of discussion about what do we need to do to change the regional designations in Scotland to be, you know, a little bit more accurate? As we all know, you know, there isn't the same sort of regional continuity in each of the regions. You know, like it's not French terroir, right? Every one of the Speyside whiskeys doesn't taste the same. I would, however, say that for those of you who are fans of Campbeltown whiskey, Campbeltown probably has the strongest regional, and the strongest sort of cohesion. I wouldn't say that all of the whiskeys taste the same, but all of the whiskeys feel the same. They have this like big, rich, textured.
There is a style, a Campbeltown style.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of the things that that the scientists will tell you, there is no salt in whiskey. Okay, there's no sodium in whiskey, so there's no salt in whiskey. And I invite you to pick up any cup of whiskey that is on the table in front of you and smell it.
But
and
save some.
Yes.
Because you'll need to go back to don't fall for this trap, Andy.
And
they'll drink it and they're like, oh, but Andy told us to drink it.
Andy told us to drink it too early.
Yeah.
So Glen Scotia has been a distillery in Campbeltown since 1832. Which was about 5 years after Springbank was first founded. It was originally founded by a group: James Stewart, John Galbraith, William James Napier, and John Colville. And it was originally called Scotia. The Glen was added about 100 years later. And one of the interesting things about this particular distillery is, whereas Springbank has had the same ownership since they opened. The same family has owned Springbank since it opened. Glen Scotia has had 9 different owners in that time frame. So, you know, a lot of different ownership. Glen Scotia has been very well known at certain times and less well known at other times. You know, there are those of us who have been huge
coming
fans
back,
of the
baby,
for years, but it is definitely coming back. And I think the whiskeys that we're going to get an opportunity to taste tonight will be a really good indication of that.
Have they been owned by anybody other than Scottish?
Have they been owned by anybody other than Scottish? They were owned for a brief time by a multinational conglomerate. So yes, they have been at one point in their career.
McDuck.
Yes, and
still Scottish.
And you know, one of the interesting things about both Glen Scotia and Springbank is there have been times throughout both of their histories where the distilleries have opened and closed at different times. You know, back to the original story about Campbeltown in 1934 when Ricklockan closed, they had gone from 26 distilleries at the end of the 1890s down to 2. Now there were a number of different reasons for that. You know, a couple of world wars, prohibition in the United States, the Great Depression. There were some issues with water sourcing at some of the distilleries, but the biggest reason why that happened was because, you know, what was happening in Scotland in the early 1900s? The blends were becoming, you know, it was the rise of the blends, right? Johnny Walker, Dewar's, you know, Buchanan's, White Label, all of these different blended companies. And Campbeltown whiskey does not work and play well with others. If you blend Campbeltown whiskey with other things, it sort of tastes like Campbeltown
Takes
whiskey.
over.
And so, you know, because of that, it had sort of fallen out of favor with the blends because all of the blended whiskey houses wanted, you know, light, pretty, fruity whiskeys that they could blend together and make, you know, the great Scottish blends that are out there. And if you, you know, when we get a chance to taste these whiskeys, you'll see they're big and they're rich and they're, you know, textured. And a lot of you know, maritime characteristics, if you will, harborside, you know, beach foam, whatever it is you want to call it. It's definitely there. From a production perspective, everything in Campbeltown is still done very, very traditionally. You know, cast iron washbacks, 100% Scottish barley. The Glen Scotia whiskeys, 128-hour fermentations, which is, you know, very long from a fermentation perspective. You know, as you all know, yeast eats sugar to form alcohol in about 48 hours. So what's happening for the other 60 hours? Fruit esters are being created. the alcohols are blending with amino acids and things like that, and creating these really, really fruity.
And you're sitting on the lees too. You're sitting on all
Yeah.
this stuff too.
Yeah, so
All
it's
the
all
that
there,
yeast cell.
so the first whiskey in your cups, the 10-year-old whiskey.
Let's do that. Number one,
the
slot
Glen
number
Scotia
one.
10-year-old. When you smell it, I get like tropical fruit. This is not apples. This is like mango and pineapple and all of these tropical fruit esters that come from those really long 128, almost 128, 29 hour fermentations.
This is 40% or 80 proof.
Yeah, this is 40% ABV, and then the double cask, the 15 and the 18 are all 46, and then we'll taste 20. I apologize. Anybody who does not want to taste the Glen Scotia 25-year-old, don't worry about it. You're not going to hurt my feelings. We can, we can just, leave that cup if you want to, and then the last whiskey we're going to taste is a whiskey called Victoriana. Glen Scotia has a Bobby mill. They're one of 6 distilleries in Scotland left that has a Bobby mill, and you've probably all heard about Bobby and Porteous, right? Bobby and Porteous were 2 companies that were so good at their job that they literally put themselves out of business because
they never broke down.
All of the distilleries who wanted a Bobby mill bought one. All the distilleries who wanted a Porteous mill bought one, and they never broke down. And they never, needed to be fixed. So now there are literally 2 guys in Scotland, a father and son, that drive around and, do like.
Yeah, well, you wear parts out. I mean, parts wear out eventually.
Yeah, but
so you do have to replace them. But they're all parts that actually can be manufactured, like can be done.
Sure,
they can make the parts.
Sure.
The parts, and nothing's too complicated that you can't make the part.
Sure.
So yeah, and they just drive around Scotland fixing the mills.
Yep. So Glen Scotia 10-year-old, 40% ABV, all ex-bourbon maturation. Like I said, a lot of really, really bright fruit on the front. And then, is this anybody's first time tasting Campbeltown whiskey? A couple of you? Okay. So the thing for me about the Campbeltown style is
you didn't drink it already, did you?
There's
a certain thing you got to do before you drink
really
it.
Texture. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, we didn't tell you about the secret thing. Oh no. So, what are you guys smelling? Deliciousness. I like that.
No, I get those fruit. There's definitely some fruity esters. There's also a darker flavor or smell even in the nose.
Yeah, there's like a chocolate or
something
like rich caramel or something
something like that.
Yep.
And by the way, I'm going to ask you, but for 40 ABV, this is very viscous on the palate.
Yep.
Are they chill filtered?
The 10 is chill filtered. The rest of them
right.
are not. Yeah.
I that's what I'm saying. I'm almost surprised at the mouthfeel.
Yep.
Because I was pretty sure at 40 it was being chill filtered.
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised at the mouthfeel on it because that still is holding that sort of mouthfeel that you would get if it wasn't chill filtered.
Yeah. And that's that thick, viscous, really oily Campbelltown.
We make it sound so terrible. It's delicious, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
It's oily, gross. I'm not,
Well,
but it has a lot going on. There's a lot there.
Yeah.
And it is part about that mouthfeel for this too.
And I was first of all, when I teach spirits classes to people, we talk a lot about the fact that the difference between a good spirit and a great spirit a lot of times isn't about flavor, right? It's about mouthfeel. It's about how the spirit feels on your palate. And Glen Scotia just has incredible mouthfeel to it. Now, I was doing a tasting at actually a staff seminar at a restaurant bar earlier today. And I always, when I taste Glen Scotia with people, I always, ask them, does anybody not like this style? And that's okay if you don't like, this big, rich, viscous style. First of all, can everybody grant me that whiskey making is part science and part art, right? It's a combination of those two things. And for me, anything artistic, in order for it to be truly great, has to be offensive to somebody. Somebody's got to not like it, right? Because if everybody liked everything, it's just sort of flavor profile for the least common denominator. Here, they're committing to a particular style based on the environment where it's made, based on
Tradition.
very, very traditional processes. For those of you, you mentioned you'd been to Campbeltown. Have you been to Glen Scotia? You know, short, squatty stills, you know, which give you that, you know, oiliness, the low copper contact. These are not, you know, clean, precise whiskeys.
Right.
Yeah, it's not Glenmorangie. And you know, and one of the things that I've started talking about with Campbeltown whiskey, and particularly with Glen Scotia, Campbeltown whiskey in a lot of ways is sort of it's a contradiction, right? You have this really, really pretty bright fruit up front, and then you get this, you know, thick, funky, oily back end. And the whiskey making style over the years was sort of like overcorrecting each thing in a perfect combination. You know, for those of you who have tasted Springbank, and you'll never hear me say a bad word about Springbank because the whiskeys are beautiful, but Springbank is sort of the perfect combination of mistakes made in exactly the right order to create something that's just incredible. Yeah, absolutely. And I think Glen Scotia, you know, is very much the same way. For those of you who haven't tasted Springbank, I think the difference between Glen Scotia and Springbank when you taste the whiskeys on the palate is that that fruit up front with Glen Scotia. Springbank has this really cool kind of like sweatiness to it. It's like there's a funk with Springbank that I think is awesome. And you know, like I said, they're all the whiskeys from Campbeltown.
Right. No, there's that. I love that. I love the area. I love all the whiskeys.
So that was the first whiskey, the 10-year-old. You know, we have all that ex-bourbon, you know, very, very clean, nothing finished. As a matter of fact, we're not going to get to a finished whiskey until the 18-year-old. Actually the double cask, which is the non-age statement whiskey, which we're going to taste next, is ex-bourbon and a little bit of PX. As all of you know,
but those are done in those barrels and then mixed afterwards, correct? Yes. Blended afterwards.
Yeah.
So the whole maturation occurs either in PX or bourbon.
Yes, and in this case, it's actually in bourbon, and then it goes for like 6 to 9 months into PX.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, yeah, just finished in PX. And that's the second whiskey here, which is the 46% ABV
double cask,
6 to 9 months in first fill PX casks at the end. And everything from here on out is non-chill filter.
That's great. I love this whiskey. It's so approachable. It's so it's fun. It's got such flavor to it.
Yep. And just like richness. You know, the difference for me between the 10-year-old and the double cask is the double cask is very much richer.
Yeah.
You know, the 10-year-old is sort of, you know, clean and fruity up front, and then you get that big oily back end. There's a little bit more richness here with the double cask.
Now I know there's no age statement on this. It's a non-age statement whiskey, but this is a very complete whiskey.
Yep.
You know, and I know people sometimes rock against the no age statement. It's like, well, then it's not 10. Or no, it can have something in it, but it has some younger stuff in it too.
Yeah.
But the point is, at the end, it has to all come together and it has to taste right.
Absolutely.
And this certainly does for me.
Yeah.
I like this better than the 10 personally. This is my side.
Yeah, that stylistically,
I like this.
It shows a lot more. You know, and that's a great point, because as you all know, you know, if you took 3 cups worth of 3-year-old whiskey and blended it with 5 barrels of 20-year-old whiskey, I don't know why you would do that, but if you did, the only thing that you can call it by law, if you want to put a number on it, is 3-year-old whiskey. So we have 2 different whiskeys here tonight that are non-age statement whiskeys on purpose. This one, and then at the end we're going to taste Victoriana. And you know what they're doing in this case is they're blending to a style rather than blending to a number.
I'm not going to worry about how I get there.
Right.
I just have to get there.
Right. Any thoughts from the group on this whiskey?
Just out of curiosity, you know, you've had the two now. Which one, 10 or double cask?
Double cask. Okay, great. We got a lot of double cask fans here.
The wave almost took me over.
Sure.
But it's one of those, but there's nothing wrong with 10. So the people who pick 10 don't think but I'm just like, it's funny in your head because a lot of people won't pick one that doesn't have an age on it. And just for the fact, and the people who like 10, like the style of the 10, not necessarily that it's 10 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, and to your point about it being a very complete whiskey, for a non-age statement, relatively young whiskey, it's still finishing.
No, it's still
You know,
finishing. It's a long finish.
still,
No, it's,
you know, spice,
a very
and
complete whiskey.
everything
like I
there.
said.
And, you know, and as I mentioned, very, very traditional distillation here. You know, to give you some numbers, the hearts are from about 71 down to 63, which gives them you know, an overall distillation strength of about 69%. And then, as you know, the tradition in Scotland is to dilute everything down to 63.5% alcohol when it goes into a barrel. A lot of that has to do with the fact that the single malt distilleries are always trading whiskey back and forth for various.
So they're always
blends and
starting
other
with the
things.
same.
So they
like
always start,
starting with
you know,
the,
at the same
Right.
number. So if 5 years from now you and I trade barrels, our barrels are going to be relatively similar in terms of ABV.
Very nice. I like that one.
So moving on to the next whiskey, and I will very, very proudly say that for my palate, the Glen Scotia 15-year-old is the most Glen Scotia of all of the Glen Scotias. It is, you know, it has achieved complete
It's a Scotia of the Glen Scotia.
Scotiacity.
Ooh.
It is the whiskey. We do have older age statement whiskeys that are, you know, that are beautiful, but they're beautiful for a particular reason. You know, people ask me if you want to know what Glen Scotia tastes like, Glen Scotia 15 is really what Glen Scotia tastes like. And, you know, the difference here between the 10 and the 15 is that bright fruit has now
Matured.
integrated and matured. Right. And we're starting to get more spice, and particularly, you know, wood spice. This is all still first fill and refill, ex-bourbon, you know, American oak ex-bourbon. You know, the Glen Scotia style has always been about the distillate, you know, because the distillate is so strong and so interesting that you don't need a lot of other things to, you know, you don't need to throw a bunch of sherry at it. You don't need to, you know,
It's
throw.
distillate driven. There's
Absolutely.
distilleries that look for finishes, and there's distilleries that look for the distillate to do the work.
Yep. Aged in dunnage warehouses, racked warehouses, and palletized warehouses. Some of it is aged in Campbeltown. Most of it is not. And you know, that is very consistent across Scotland. I know we love to think about the,
We love
you know,
to
the very
romanticize about
romantic image that, you know,
the barrels.
things aged in a dunnage
They're out
warehouse.
back.
Yeah,
They're out back.
they're right here, and Jimmy walks by all of them every day and
Taps
pets
them,
them,
yeah.
and you know, everything like that.
But the other thing too, I always point out to people is like, well, you know, if they're doing them inland, then they're not getting, you know, that exposure by the ocean. I go, anywhere in Scotland, you are not more than 60 miles to the ocean.
Right. And the
So
reality,
you can be closer, but you're not more than 60 miles away.
sure. And you know, as all of you know, from a maturation perspective, the climate and humidity in Scotland is very consistent. I saw a Facebook post a couple of weeks ago, and it had basically four identical pictures, and it said spring in Scotland, summer in Scotland, autumn in Scotland, fall in Scotland, or, you know, winter in Scotland. So you're
It's
not
still that temperate climate. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's like stormy and miserable for a lot of the time.
sure.
But it's like you'll find a palm tree growing in
Yeah, it just pops up all of a sudden. You're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
How does that survive here?
Right.
But
And-
it is just the way the Gulf Stream runs.
You know, but because of that, for those of you, is there anybody in here drinks bourbon? That's okay. We're not gonna hurt. We're not gonna hurt anybody.
The better question was: is there anybody in here that doesn't drink bourbon?
Yes. You know, as
Yeah,
you
that's what I
know,
meant.
the temperature fluctuations in, Kentucky and other places in the United States are significant. And because of that, and because of the, use of 7-story warehouses where you have temperature fluctuations inside the warehouses, you get barrels that are very, very different and very distinctive.
Mhm.
And in Scotland, whether you're aging, to your point, at the distillery or aging in a big warehouse in central Scotland, you're getting a very consistent
Temperature.
consistent
Yeah.
temperature and
I
humidity.
mean, everything is built. It's built on your. Everything's built on your environment. You do stuff because, like, why does it come out that way? Well, it's because of the environment. I mean, our whiskey here in the United States, like especially bourbon, is built on the environment. We whiskey those temperature changes are what make bourbon bourbon. All
Absolutely.
right, you don't. That's what you want. So the longevity of aging whiskey in those type of conditions, and we're always like, oh man, a 20-year-old bourbon. No,
Yeah,
not necessarily
yeah,
great.
not necessarily.
Because that's not where they. Elmer T. Lee once told me, he says, we're not built that way. He said, if you notice, all the stuff I do is between like basically 8 and 10 years is our like sweet spot.
Yep.
And that's where it is. That is the outer limit. It's like, oh, he was talking about Julian Van Winkle and stuff. It's like, these, 15, 20 years, 23 years. He says, that's too long.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's too long. You get the oddball. You have to put it on lower racks. You really have to like sort of pay attention to so they'll make it that far. Because
Sure.
But in Scotland, because of the temperature and a lot of the neutrality of some of the barrels,
Right.
you do get these things that can age out 50 years.
Yeah, absolutely. And
No problem. No problem. We've had 44-year-old bourbon, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Sure. Because it's just at that point, it's just like wood juice. Like it's
It's
so
I call
extractive.
it sucking on a church pew.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely.
First fill, refill,
the
percentages
exact
of that.
percentages, I don't. Yeah, it varies per year. But when you, as an example,
But when they
here,
blend them, that's what they're looking. They're looking for. They're
Right.
looking to match it.
right, and when you get to 15 years old, you actually want a pretty significant percentage of your whiskey in refill barrels because keep in mind that those ex-bourbon barrels, the as we talked about, the bourbon is extracting a lot of the overt woodiness anyway, but you're now going to take this whiskey and put it in a barrel, some of it first fill and some of it refill for 15 years. And you want to make sure that you're creating that balance in the process. The Glen Scotia is owned by the Loch Lomond Group, and the Loch Lomond Group at Loch Lomond, they have their own cooperage. So the other thing that they have the ability to do is when they're refurbishing and recharring barrels, their refill barrels are a little bit more precise than some other people's refill barrels because they're not just going, yeah,
Send us some.
Malcolm, send me 50, refill barrels. So I don't want to get too far away from this 15-year-old. What do you think of this 15? This is I tell people all the time, I would put Glen Scotia 15-year-old on any table with any set of whiskeys, and it's going to stand up very well.
What I like it's still pristine. It's like a pristine 15-year-old. A lot of times when you get whiskeys that are older and they get to 15, it's all about the finish.
Mm-hmm.
Or the blend with other things that were finished in other things and not really about again, I mean, Glen Scotia is sort of about the distillate.
Yep.
And not, something else.
Yep.
I mean, you have stuff that's finished and we're going to get to it. I get it.
Yeah, we'll get there.
But I'm just saying the 15 is sort of like, it's one of those type of things is like this is sort of your flagship.
Sure.
In a lot of ways.
And that fruit is still there, but now it's sort of roasted fruit, right? It's
I was going to say stewed fruit.
Yeah, little stewed. And you've got the wood spice is really starting to come out, particularly on the finish. And again, just sort of, finishes for days. This this whiskey will still
You'll taste it tomorrow morning.
You will taste it tomorrow morning. Just make sure that you don't taste it in the car right now.
That's right. That's right.
Safety first, everybody. 46% ABV, and
Unchill filtered.
non-chill filtered. You know, we're going to talk about pricing later, but I can tell you that, you know, for a 15-year-old whiskey of this quality, you will be amazed at how little this whiskey costs. You know, because, you know, as we all know, there's a lot of, you know, high-priced whiskeys, particularly when you start getting, you know, 15, 18, that sort of range.
Yeah, definitely. Well, speaking of 18,
so the Glen Scotia 18-year-old is now only aged in refill barrels. Okay, so there's no first fill barrels. There are only refill barrels used here. In refill American oak for 17 years, and then 1 year in ex Oloroso sherry casks, also 46% ABV, non-chill filtered. And when you taste this, you know, there's a lot of those similar components, but you definitely taste the sherry influence here. There's definitely, you know, a
but the
softness
distillate's
and
still there.
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's not like this isn't it hasn't covered it up by any means.
Yeah, there's definitely a nuttiness to it, and a roundness that's sort of different here, because that sherry finishing is changing the finish, you know, pretty significantly. The spice is still there, but it's amalgamated a little differently. It's you know, worked its way into the blend a little differently, and now you sort of see why I say I love this whiskey. But the Glen Scotia 15-year-old is sort of the most,
Glen
Scotia of all of them.
Right.
You know, here we're starting to experiment with some different flavors, and sort of take that beautiful base and beautiful structure that is Glen Scotia, and adding something a little bit differently on top. We had asked about 10 and double cask. I'm sort of interested to hear your thoughts. How many 15 versus 18?
15.
15. Okay. 18. Okay, so it's about half and half.
It's maybe a little bit more to the 18, but not much.
Yeah. And
it's a room divided. We'll have to slug it out.
There you go. We'll fisticuffs at dawn.
Yes.
We'll do that later. So the next whiskey, again, you don't have to taste the 20.
Okay, so yeah, don't look up here and think that the next whiskey is the Victoriana.
There's a
space.
There's a gap here, and the reason why there's a gap here is because the Victoriana, the last whiskey we're going to taste, is 54.2 ABV, and we wanted to show the 25-year-old first, because it's 48.8. It's still so I'm gonna with the 25-year-old, 24 years in refill ex-bourbon American oak, and then 24 years there, and then 1 year in first fill American oak at the end of the process. So we're sort of
taking it out and putting it back.
Lift at the end of the process. And so the style of this whiskey is very interesting, because you are getting that, you know, first fill. It's not new wood, it's first fill ex-bourbon, but, you know, much more wood integration and vanilla and things like that. At the
vanilla-y sort of, almost a minty, like vanilla, like a light mint on that nose. Do you get it like a?
Yeah, there's a like a menthol.
Yeah, not a menthol. It's more of a like a soft mint light ice cream or something like that. It's like that. You know, it's not overwhelming. What's that? And tienes y huefa after dinner. No,
sure, I like that. And now it's
not that strong though. Like that, those after dinner mints are too strong for this. This is why I keep thinking like almost like melted mint ice cream.
Yeah, like mint chocolate chip ice cream or something like that.
No chocolate though. Right. But I don't smell any. Anyway.
Now I have two problems. One of which is my 25 is almost gone, and now I want ice cream. So, you know, we all have our crosses.
Oh, that's quite lovely.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Yeah.
So
all right. Is it okay? And I'm one of those people that don't I don't like, when somebody says to me like, oh, that bourbon, it's got smoke in it. I go, no, there's no smoke in it. Are you guys getting anything like a smoky finish on this? Not peat, not peat, smoke.
A little bit of smoke, and that,
Yeah.
and I think some of that is the char from the new wood, really, because it's
it?
aged for so long. There's a lift there.
What is it?
The
Yeah, the Bundermans.
Yeah.
But no, but you get a little smoke on that at the finish.
Now the interesting thing, I get
Either there, I'm having something right now, and you might have to call the police or the ambulance or something. But
I get questions all the time about Glen Scotia and peat, because there are some of these expressions where you're sort of like, there isn't a lot of peat, but maybe there's a little there. So Glen Scotia uses peated barley 6 weeks a year. And a vast majority of that peated barley, the distillate from that peated barley, is kept separate for special bottlings. They'll do
have done peated whiskeys.
A Campbeltown festival bottling that sometimes is heavily peated. They have a couple of special things that they do that are heavily peated. The rest of that peated liquid is aged in barrels and being blended into the other things that they're doing. So it's sort of like there may be some peat there, but it's not.
I didn't get peat. I wasn't like getting peat. I was getting
the
actual smoke.
Yeah. I see what you're saying.
Huh? No, you wouldn't.
It's
But you
not
wouldn't.
like
But
medicinal. Yeah.
But when you guys use, okay, here's a good question. When you guys use peat, what type of peat are you using? Is it Isla or is it mainland?
It's mainland.
Mainland.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't have some of that. That's why I asked, because that is a different,
softer and more iodine.
Well, that I'll give it to the New England. Well, that doesn't suck.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad. Thank you all for humoring me and trying the 25-year-old Glen Scotia, because I know sometimes
push you out a little bit.
Don't bring us these old.
But it really
whiskeys. We want
that finish is really
we
good.
want the young whiskeys.
Yes,
Don't
the
bring
young
us
whiskeys.
old whiskeys.
Bring it to us off the still, will you?
Yeah.
Yes.
New
make, cleric, as they say.
Yes. And again, I'm gonna say 25-year-old whiskey of that quality, and everybody just let a price point appear in your head, and I guarantee you that this price point is significantly lower than all of those, because I'm picturing several zeros at this point with some of the 25.
Why are you looking at Charlie and Jim when you say that? What?
So that's the 25-year-old, and then the last whiskey that we're gonna taste tonight, and then we can take some questions and have some further discussion, is a whiskey called Victoriana. How many of you have ever tasted Glen Scotia Victoriana before? Okay, so a few of you.
How many of you fought for it to get back in Massachusetts?
You guys did, and it is definitely back. So Victoriana, first of all, obviously Victoriana is sort of a tribute to Victorian whiskey making, right? The time when Campbeltown was the David Stirk just wrote a book called Whiskyopolis about the history of Campbeltown, and about literally there was a time when Campbeltown was the center of the universe for whiskey making, basically. So Glen Scotia, as we mentioned, they have gone through several different ownership changes and several different expressions and things like that. And in a lot of ways, this whiskey sort of put Glen Scotia back on the map a little bit. It got some. It was released for the first time about 6 years ago and started getting an awful lot of interest. A couple of special things about Glen Scotia. And first of all, I'm gonna read this because I want to make sure that I get the whiskey making absolutely right here. So this is, first of all, the distillate here is between 8 and 20 years old. Okay, so there's definitely considerable older distillate in here. So it's not your normal age, non-age statement whiskey that would be 4 to 6, maybe 6 to 8 years old. Definitely some older distillate here. It is aged initially in first fill and refill ex-bourbon American oak. Then they finish it in 30% Oloroso casks,
Mhm.
and 70% heavily charred casks for 12 months. And then it goes in to refill bourbon for the last 6 months of its aging. And the reason for that recharred barrels late in the process is that is a historical tribute to the way that whiskey used to be made in Campbeltown. Reason being, if you're in Campbeltown making whiskey in the 1870s and 1880s and you got a barrel, that barrel could have literally had anything in it before it came to you, right?
Herring.
Herring,
Did I hear herring?
nails, oil, all sorts of things. Because if you think about it, at the time, a barrel was the easiest way to
Cardboard
transport
box
something.
at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. You could roll it, you can, tip it on its forehead. So what they would do is once they got barrels in, before they put whiskey in them, they would flash char the barrels. And by flash charring the inside of the barrels, it would sort of sanitize the barrels and just make sure that all of those other flavors were gone. So when Glen Scotia decided to make Victoriana, they were like, "Hey, let's flash char barrels and use those barrels late in the process so that we sort of harken back to that tradition." The other thing that you'll notice about Victoriana is that Victoriana comes in a green bottle, and all of the other Glen Scotia whiskeys come in a clear bottle. There's a very practical reason for this, and that is in the late 1800s, there were an awful lot of people who couldn't read. And so they would determine what to drink and what not to drink based on the color of the bottle. So a green bottle meant alcohol. This is okay to drink. A clear bottle meant fruit juice or water or, that's okay to drink. Don't drink the stuff in the black bottles. That's poison. That will hurt you. And so, just a couple of things hearkening back to that the traditional distillation at the time. We're gonna make a pretty significant jump up in ABV here. This is 54.2. This is not a cask strength whiskey. This is a batch strength whiskey. It is always blended to 54.2 now. For those of you who remember the first couple of releases of Victoriana, initially they were the batches had different ABVs, and they realized that every time you release a batch whiskey with a different ABV, you got to get your label reapproved every place in the world, and you have to go through TTB and everything else. So they just decided, here's what we're going to do. We like this whiskey at 54.2. So when we create our blend, when we go through that, what's a relatively complex process to get here, this whiskey will always be 54.2 ABV. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. As you taste it, if you haven't already tasted it, is it's much higher in ABV, and because of that flash charring at the end of the process, there's a weird sort of connection from this whiskey to bourbon.
Yep.
And so
you get those vanillins, you get those caramels, you get those.
So for those of you who are bourbon drinkers, or more importantly, for those of you who are Scotch drinkers and you have friends of yours come over who will only drink bourbon and only want to drink bourbon, this is sort of an interesting transition that, bourbon drinkers will be relatively happy with this. It's obviously not bourbon, right? This is very much malted barley. It is very much Glen Scotia distillate. It has all of that rich, oily texture that all of the other whiskeys do. But because of the way that the whiskey is matured, there's sort of a hint of bourbon for your bourbon folk.
We haven't had Victoriana up until the last time we got it, which was probably about, I want to say maybe 6 months ago. We hadn't had it for probably over a year, maybe longer than that. And I was like, did they stop making it? I mean, why would they stop making that? It's really good. There has to be some reason. Then I found out that it was our wholesaler just wasn't bringing it in.
Yeah, it was the change in wholesaler and a transition there. You
They
know,
were they weren't bringing it in.
that's
So
part of
I
it.
got when Foley family approached me and I said, "Hey, is there any Victoriana around?" They're like, "Oh yeah, you can get that."
You can
I'm
get
like, "Oh, I can? We would like some of that, please." And she says, "Well, I can send it up from New York. How much would you like?" And I go, I don't know. How much would you give me?" And she's like, "Well, we'll send up 8 cases." I said, "That sounds about right."
Yeah.
Because as soon as it came in, everybody else that had known about this and wanted it, everybody bought at least 2 bottles because like I'm never going to be without this again.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody bought like 2 bottles, and we like flew through that. And as a matter of fact, what we have here at the store right now is the last of another batch, another shipment that came in.
Yep.
They were like, "Well, we have the big festival coming up. What are we going to do?" And I said, "Well, how much Victoriana's left? We're going to do a table. How much Victoriana's left?" It was like, I don't know. It was like four cases. I just send it. We'll take what's
Yeah.
left.
And there is more on a boat coming
Yeah.
from Scotland, but as you probably know, boats from Scotland take a little bit of time to get here, unfortunately.
Well, and the
Particularly
prices
when you
can
get
start fluctuating a little bit now too. So you got to be careful.
yeah, you know, particularly when you get what 8 feet of snow in 4 days or
Yep,
whatever it
that'll
was
do it.
that you all got.
That'll do it.
Can certainly slow things down. So
Well, wait a
that's
minute. What'd you guys think of Victoriana? Who liked that? Did anybody like it? Yeah, you did. 3 people liked it. It's awesome. I'll sell a ton of it that way. Got 4 goddamn cases of it, and then 3 people liked it.
3 people like it. We forgot to ask. Did anybody like the 25-year-old?
Yeah.
Was that okay? Is that okay?
Is that all right?
All right.
The
All right.
25-year-old that passed muster.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
There we go.
You know, but again, back to now that you've had a chance that this is not all of the whiskeys that Glen Scotia makes, but this is a very good representation of Glen Scotia. And I'll go back to what I talked about a little bit before. They're all very different expressions.
Mhm.
The one that just screams Glen Scotia to me is the 15-year-old.
Yeah.
You know, the Victoriana is great for a different reason.
Right.
Right.
No.
The 18 is great for a different reason. But, you know, if somebody just, you know, walks up to you on the street and says, "Sir, can you tell me what Glen Scotia tastes like?" I don't know why they would, but I might. You know, but the 15 is the one that
Get away from you, weirdo.
yeah, that you know really has all of the components that I think of when I think of Glen Scotia.
Or did somebody find something that they didn't like? Who had never had Glen Scotia before? There's quite a few. There was quite a few.
A couple of you.
All right. Did you find some stuff you liked? All right. Our job here is done. Andy, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
Andy's going to be, by the way, just so you guys know, Andy is going to be at the table for Glen Scotia for Saturday night and Sunday. So you can go by and stop in and say hi and ask him, beat him up for some more of the 25. I don't know.
There you go.
I know, who knows. But I want to thank you, sir, for coming with us tonight.
Thank you. Really appreciate it. And I'll be around for a while tonight if you have any other questions, or I'll also make sure that I keep my my contact information handy, because sometimes, you know, you get home and you're like, "Oh, I wish I would have asked this."
Right.
And, you know, we'll make sure that
make sure you can always send him. He likes texts usually at like midnight for some weird reason. So send it to him. He loves it. He loves it. He loves it.
Really, those are the
All right, we're gonna say bye to everybody on Facebook. Also, this is my cousin Vinny brings this over and he puts it over. It's the Liquor Talk. You can get it on Spotify. You can get it on. We have our own YouTube channel. You can check it out there. So if you want to go back and revisit something, you can certainly do that.
Can I say one more thing before we
can?
If everybody can, if you have any whiskey left, if you can just pick up your favorite whiskey if you have any left, and if you don't have any left, that's okay too. But
save some for a toast, will you please?
I'm sure you all come to a lot of whiskey tastings, and I do a lot of whiskey tastings, and I know you guys do a lot of whiskey tastings. And one of the things that when I finish an evening with a group of people like yourselves, that I like to I like to remind everybody about is that, like, this is never going to happen again, right? We'll all taste whiskey together maybe in the future, but it won't be this lineup. It won't be exactly this group of people. And whiskey creates connections in a different sort of way than other beverages do, right? It's about these whiskeys and this group of people and something that's happening wonderful that's, you know, 4,000 miles away. And so I just want to thank you all for being here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andy.
And, you know,
thank you, Andy.
Taste with all of you. Thanks.
Sajva. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody on Facebook. I just wanted to tell you, I'm glad you joined us today and followed along, but you should have been here because it was awesome.
It was fun.